Hey, hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Let's see. Hi, hello Gary. Hi, welcome. Hello Michael. Hello Deborah. Yeah, I found this picture on Pinterest. Yeah, a beautiful picture. Okay, let's see what we can do today. Okay, I'm gonna mention my colors and brushes. Okay. Okay, let's see. Here I have titanium white, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red, burnt sienna, uh, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and ivory black. Here are my brushes, just synthetic brushes. Okay. Um, Nothing so fancy. Okay. Let's see, the beauty about this image, the light on the face, the shadow and the hands. I'm gonna try to, I don't think I'm gonna have all the time to paint details on the hands and the fingers, but I would love to kind of have a sketchy painting. I don't know if I'm gonna change a few things. For example, I love the light on the face, but I would love to have a darker background, a darker sky, to see the light, on the face glowing a bit more. Yeah, and I see some cool colors on the shadows, which I think maybe I'm gonna just saturate a bit more. Let's see how much. Always a painting is, it's a thing that go back and forth. Hello, Sylvia. Hello, Tatiana. Okay, let's paint. Okay, I'm gonna start drawing. Just 1 second. Gotta move things here to see, the comments and see the photographs. Okay. I'm gonna start sketching with just willow charcoal. I got this here. And let's see. First, it's gonna be just about placing the whole head. What I try to do all the time is just reduce what I see, just to simplify it. Something pretty simple is gonna be always easier to copy. See the hands, for example, just thinking that I can place the whole hands inside this shape. And the face, it looks like a triangle. Yeah. Okay. That's the first thing that I think. Simplification. I'm squint down my eyes, and the same time that I'm gonna just draw, use lines to draw the eyes, nose, and mouth. I wanna see the separation between light and shadows, because we draw that too. In a way that we use lines, but we use values. Okay, for the face, the first thing, center line of the face, pretty important. Okay, you just trace the center line of the face. You trace the line for the eyes. Imagine that you just traced it a little bit up, a little bit down. You just choose where you want to place the eyes based on the placement of the whole head. It's not like you're going to make a mistake by placing the eyes. You just got to be sure how tilted are the eyes, okay? Obviously, closer to be tilted as the photograph. The center line of the face the same. You can trace the center line on top of the photograph. In that way, you have a better idea. You establish the chin. Okay. Now, here for the eyes, you're gonna just trace another line for the eyebrows, even that we don't see that clearly, but we have an idea about, we have a roughly idea about the distance between the eyes to the eyebrows. Once you got this, and you got this, you're gonna split that in two. You can even measure it, okay? Like this. And usually the nose is gonna be there. Since the face is tilted downward a bit, the nose looks like this. Okay? Now, you got this line for the eyes that happens to be in a third portion from this one to this one. Okay, there. One eye here, one eye here. Center line of the face. And for the mouth, you split again this in two. Okay? And usually you sit the mouth there. Now, you gotta see if the position of the face is changing the placement of the mouth. Maybe it's a little bit down, a little bit up. Now, this is the best way I would suggest everybody to start a portrait because we have a solid foundation, a solid structure. Okay, that's better. And that's gonna be always about measuring. Now, you can do it visually. You can start maybe painting light and shadows and then draw after that. That's okay too. You can change the order. It could be linear, it could be just with values. At the end, we switch the order, but we do the same. Hello, Meredith. Mary saying hi from Australia. Oh, thank you. Annie Peru. Hi from Peru. Hello, Sammy. Oh, Deborah saying, I wish I could paint alone, but I cannot do two things at once, watch you and paint. Hello, Mark. Hello, Fluber. Yeah, the recording is gonna stay here on YouTube. Yeah, and that way everybody can just go slowly on the recording. Pause it. The photograph is just the link to the photograph is on the comments. Okay. Just trying to get a bit more details, but as you can see, I always trying to keep this pretty simple. What I mean, for example, the mouth, I see a curve, but what I do is I just draw lines, okay? There's the nose, it becomes just something like this. But because we are trying to simplify. Now, as I draw this here, the nose, I check out the position of the nose with the eye. The same I do with the corner of the mouth, with the eye. And the other side the same, and here the same. And I try to see if there is one eye between the eyes. Sometimes there is more. I think today, I see on the image, there's more distance between the eyes. You know, usually it's just one distance. Now for the hands, I do the same, trying to keep everything pretty simple. What I see here, a triangle, another triangle here. Drawing something pretty flat, like something flat, is easier. Because, okay, we have a lot of things, anatomy and all of those things when we draw the human face and when we draw hands and all of that. But since we're not gonna maybe know about all of that, the first step is just easier to simplify, just to reduce the complexity of any form to a simple flat shape. From a form that's three-dimensional to a shape which is flat. Okay, I'm stepping back a bit to check out. Okay, that's good. Now I want to establish colors. Hello, Paul Landry. Hello, Fernand's. Okay, from Iran. Yeah. Hi from Peru. Okay. Let's see. First thing that I do, I squint down my eyes and see light and shadows. Okay. What I want to do is just make something pretty simple. The simplest thing that I can do is mix two values. I'm gonna say that's too simple, but let's do it today. Okay. One value is gonna be for the lights, the other one for the shadow. Okay. Now, obviously, you can mix more values, maybe because this is too simple, but it's gonna work. Oh, I need some linseed oil. Just 1 second. Okay, I have here white, yellow, and red. When I paint this, maybe I'm gonna get one color that I'm not expecting. That's gonna be black. You know, charcoal is gonna work as a pigment. It's gonna get mixed, and I see that maybe I'm gonna get some greenish color. That happens. No big deal. I mean, when you know what's gonna happen, it's no big deal. When you don't know what's gonna happen is when you feel like you don't expect that color. But I know what I'm gonna do is just add more paint, and eventually I'm gonna get rid of that greenish color. Maybe it's not gonna be too much. Okay, let's see here. I see a triangular shape. Look at that. You see this greenish color? Let me see. It looks greenish on the screen. Yeah, a little bit, yeah? So fast. That's charcoal. Charcoal works just like black pigment. Yeah. It's pretty powerful. Yeah. Maybe I should erase it. You know, I have experience. If I try to erase it, I'm gonna just spread it. That's because of my canvas, and that's what I have used a charcoal pencil. Yeah, but then you know that happens. That happens. Okay. Light here. Okay. Light here. I'm just grouping the lights, okay? Keep my eyes squinted down. Now, even that I did just a little bit, I'm gonna use this color for the shadows. Okay, I'm gonna try to obviously protect my drawing. Like, you can even just go around the drawing, don't touch the drawing. Okay, here is when you need to do it. And I know that here on this stage, we could be afraid because there's a darker value. And we're always afraid of darker values. But the thing is that you gotta do it. What's the next thing that's gonna happen? Adjustments. Okay? We're gonna need to adjust this light and shadow, especially the shapes. About colors, I know one thing. This shadow is gonna have cool and warm colors. I'm starting just with this color, burnt sienna and white. It's because it's simpler. It's easier to paint. It's easier to mix. We want that when we start. We don't want to add a lot of yellow, blue, red. You know, we don't want that right now. I mean, I don't want that at this stage. But maybe tomorrow I could paint another painting, and I'm gonna do that. Yeah, but let's say that today, because I'm seeing how difficult it could be with the hands and all of that, I choose just to paint values, just few values, two values, and I choose just to mix with just simple mixtures. In this case, burnt sienna and white. Okay. Now I pick up lighter color again. I need to clean my brush because I got a little bit of this greenish color here. Hello Kundam, hello Roger. How do you decide what colors to use from the skin colors each painting? Oh yeah, if you see my life, it's kind of repetitive. It's something that I keep doing. Let's say it over and over. For example, one color that I would use, I have been using a lot on some paint is just burnt sienna and white, and that's pretty good for, let's say, a lighter skin color. Another color I could use is orange and white. But that's it. Pretty simple at the beginning. Now, as we continue adding paint, we gotta just add maybe more red or more yellow, depending on the skin color, depending on the light. Because she could have, for example, a pretty pinky skin color, but her skin is being affected by the sunlight, which is making her skin looking like kind of yellowish orangey. Yeah. Now that's the thing. No reason for me to try to match the perfect color as this stage. I gotta wait. And another thing that I know that obviously each color that you lay down is gonna affect the other colors. And sometimes each color that you mix on the palette and that you think that's pretty good, it's gonna look a bit different on the canvas. In my case, maybe it's the charcoal, maybe it's your canvas. In my case, my canvas is kind of orangey. Yeah, that's gonna affect. If you paint on a white canvas, that's gonna affect the skin color too. But as a way to practice, I would say choose something pretty simple. Using burnt sienna and white and ultramarine blue sometimes is just good enough. Yeah? And for a beginner, obviously, I would say try something pretty simple because there is a lot of things to do on a portrait. We don't need to complicate ourselves at the beginning. We're going to have enough time to deal with a lot of complexity on the portrait. Okay, about the sky, I want a greenish sky. Mixing green, a little bit of burnt sienna, and white. Let me see. I want a kind of mute green, more blue than yellow. A little bit of black. Black is gonna grade down any color really fast. And I think, oops, I added too much black. Okay, let's see the color. It's kind of grayish, but let's see. You know, something that I don't like about her neck, it looks kind of stiff. You know, it looks like a kind of straight one side and curvy on the other side. Maybe I need to change something there a bit. Okay. Now I got my canvas helps a lot, yeah. But let's say that I got light, I got midtones, and I got shadows. My canvas helps a lot because I got this already mid-tone that I don't need to paint on top. Okay. Hi, Jonas. Hi, Meredith. Okay. Now, as you can see, I got two colors. If somebody is planning painting along with me, remember this mixture is burnt sienna and white. Just that. Okay. This one, you can just try two options, orange and white or burnt sienna and white. Yeah, but the idea is that to have a lighter color. Okay, I think this keeps this pretty simple, yeah, which is the idea. Now we can mix a mid-tone. A mid-tone is going to be a color that's going to be, we're going to pick up another brush. It's going to be here between these two. What if I use burnt sienna again in white? A touch of red. That's going to be a mid-tone between these two, okay? Okay, I can use that one for this area, for example. Yeah, we can see there's a mid-tone. Yeah? Here's a mid-tone, here's a mid-tone, here on the fingers. Yeah. Now, the things that are going to happen when we paint you're painting and you're gonna pick up a little bit of the color that's here. You go back to the palette and you're gonna end up lighting up the mixture. Or maybe you're gonna pick up a little bit of the darker color. You go to your palette and then darken up the mixture. Just be careful with that. And what I do sometimes, if I see that that's affecting too much the color of my palette, I clean up the brush from time to time before I go back to the palette. Okay, or I just prepare more paint, prepare cleaner paint. Okay, now with this we establish light, midtones and shadows. We started with 2 values, now we have 3 values. Yeah, obviously there are more. It's impossible to paint a face just with 2 values, but at least we have enough to represent the light and shadow, which is pretty good. Yeah? Just with 2 values, 3 values, anybody could tell where's the light coming from, where's the shadow, which is pretty good. Okay. Remember, you can just my video is gonna stay here on YouTube. For somebody that's a beginner, I would say you can practice one option. You can trace the drawing and then paint, and that way you're gonna just be worried about just colors, values, and not the drawing. And then repeat the exercise, drawing and painting. Okay. Okay, now I need another brush, because obviously when we paint, we kind of mess up the drawing. We gotta be careful just with that. Oh, I got a question here. What colors do I use if I'm using liquid text acrylic for my palette colors? You could use the same. Yeah, similar colors, that's okay. Usually what I apply in terms of color, edges, or process is kind of similar. Okay, the only thing that's different that with acrylics, I expect the acrylics to dry faster. Okay, and I count in that. That means when I add more paint, I don't expect the painting to get mixed. I just expect to add a new layer on top, and that's it. With oils, I know that I'm gonna add 1 layer on top. It's gonna get mixed with this. Okay, and what it changed that is depending on how you see the process going. Because one thing that I could say that, for example, I see myself maybe trying to paint this eye darker and not getting to the value. Just adding more paint, more paint, more paint, and not getting to get a darker eye. And I could picture myself using a palette knife and scraping the paint to add more paint on top. Okay, that would be one thing. That because the painting is wet. With acrylics, I would expect that no, the painting is dry. I lay down a darker color, it's gonna stay dark. And that's kind of a different mindset that you need to get used to as you practice more with different materials. The same happens with somebody that paints with watercolors. Yeah? The same happens with somebody that paints with another, pastels. But that has to do just with getting used to the material. Nothing special about that. The more you use the material, the more you know what's going to happen. It's just that you got to be patient and just try. Huh? Oh, Gary, you're saying I was hoping you might do a portrait using pastels. Okay, yeah, I could put it in the list. Yeah, it's time, I think. Yeah. Maybe this stage is too early to think about edges, but I'm thinking about edges right now. And what got in my head is this, I have a sharp edge here. Yeah? Now, I cannot have a completely continuous sharp edge. That's going to make the area flat. I can make it kind of soft. I'm saying that's too early because I'm going to add more paint. But anyway, this is what I could do. A sharp edge. Okay, and softer here. Okay. And now here I can have a sharp edge too. Okay, from the left side of the face, the same. Okay, I could have a soft edge. We can see that on the photograph. Soft, sharp, soft, sharp, and soft. Okay. Now, we as painters is when we are starting just to make decisions that's going to change how the painting looks. Those decisions are based on what we want to see. Not just copying the photograph, it's just what we want to see. Okay? And that thing about what we want to see sometimes is the result of some happy accidents. That's by, changing one color, and you know that every color is affected by the other colors, and that, drives us to use a different color, and just by that, we end up with a new or a slightly new color harmony, let's say. Okay, I'm using a little bit of alizarin crimson here. Now you can see how these two colors start to move to 3, 4, 5. Now, one thing that I would say that don't start with that much paint. As soon as you're sure about your drawing is good, stays good, the structure, everything is good, you can just mix more and more paint. Okay, and eventually you're gonna add a lot of paint if you want. I'm gonna add more red here with white. I'm gonna paint the fingers a little bit reddish. I'm gonna paint my daughter maybe next week. But that's gonna be a different painting, not a portrait, because I got a photograph of her just sitting on the couch, and that's a very beautiful photograph. And yesterday was her birthday. She turned 23, and I think that's gonna be a nice, gift. Okay, now what you can see here, okay, the value, a mid-tone. For this, obviously, we need to practicing the value differences. Here's a bit darker, mid-tone, lighter here. And there's gonna be, like I said, a lot of back and forth. You're gonna maybe make this a little bit lighter. Every time that you paint a value on one area, just remember something that you need to compare. You paint this lighter, compare with this area. Which one should be lighter? The same that happens with shadows. Which shadow is going to be darker? Okay, if I just squint down my eyes, you know what I see? I'm going to use black and burnt sienna. I see this. Here's darker. Okay, here's darker. Darker. And darker. Okay, now here darker too. Yeah, I think those are darker spots. Okay. When I think about lights, when I mix yellow and red, I want a brighter color, white. I want this to mixture a bit thicker. Okay, squint my eyes again, I see light here. Light here. And then I need to darken up this a bit more yellow and red. Light here. Light. Light. Okay. Now the neck. Now here I gotta choose. Should I make it this pretty light? Or maybe I could just, knock down the color. Even that as a saturated color, I knock down the color. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sylvia. Okay. Okay. So you know what? I think I'm gonna make some color a bit dark. Okay, let's continue. I need more midtones, like the one here. Start with a simple mixture, burnt sienna and white. Then you can add a touch of red, a touch of yellow, but start just with burnt sienna and white. Be sure that you got one color here, one color here. That way you can compare that this is a midtone. You can even take a picture and turn it black and white. And you see that it's a lighter gray, a midtone, darker gray, and darker gray, that's good. Okay, that means that everything is working pretty good in terms of values. Okay. That's how we control, the structure of the whole face. If you control values on the palette, okay, remember that you're gonna be able to see the face, to see anything that you paint, anything is gonna be visible to your eyes, obviously with no details. Here's when you gotta choose to paint more or less details, but definitely you're gonna be able to see, the face, because everything that we see because there is light and shadows. That's what shows the form. Thank you, Michael. Okay, now things that maybe we don't see, but we need to paint based on knowledge. Here's where things get a little bit more complicated, but we need some knowledge, okay? Now here, I'm gonna draw on top of my painting a bit. I love this part, even when I mess up my painting a bit, but anyway, I love it. Okay, now, what we know is here as a sphere, okay? The sphere here. Here, a sphere, the eye. What's the volume of the nose? The same. A sphere. What's the volume of this area? Okay, it has this form. Cheekbones, spheres again. Okay, now, what I know, for example, light is coming from right, there's gotta be some shadow here. Okay? Because it's a sphere, yeah? Light in one side, shadow in the other side. Okay. Now, about the cheek here. Okay. We know that here on this area, we gotta know. If you don't know, we need to study it. Or draw scores. Here's a bone. Okay, that's the upper part of the eye socket. That's the cheekbone. Okay, it means that this portion is gonna be a little bit rounded. This here. Okay. We gotta paint the mid-tone here. Why? Because this form is turning. We cannot paint anything or create illusion that something is rounded without more values. Okay, now what happens with this color as they go to the side? It becomes warmer, cooler. It gets the color of the background. It gets the color of the sun. Okay, that's gonna be homework for you. Okay, now this color could be darker and warmer. Now at the same time, the funny thing is that depends. It could be darker and cooler. Everything depends on the light conditions. Okay, I'm mixing a little bit of red here for the cheek, a little bit of pink. Okay. Now, one thing here that's happening for me that I'm thinking, thinking more about the form of the eye, squinting down my eyes and trying to see some values there. And some of them, I don't see some of them. They're not so clear on the photograph for me. And this is more about knowing this, that there is this mid-tone here. And so many times I have painted that I know there's a mid-tone here. And obviously I want to create this rounded. There's gotta be a mid-tone here. And even maybe, this is what I see this on the photograph, okay, this area. That's a proof that we see this, the value is turning, yeah? The value is turning from lighter to darker. Okay. Now, a little bit of light here. Okay. On the nose, light is coming from here. Yeah? That's gonna add some light here. Okay. Now, but one thing that happens here, ambient light. That's pretty good. I love this part because we always study color theory when we think about this. Okay, the light from the sky is the light that's getting light on the face, obviously making the color of the face a little bit yellowish. But the light from the sky is a little bit bluish. That light doesn't get into this area, but that light is around everything. It's like a dome around. That's one of the reasons that if we pay attention, we're gonna see a little bit of a bluish color, cool color, okay, getting here into the nose. And that's the light, okay? That color is affected by what? By the skylight. That's turning this color a little bit cool. Okay? Now, this portion here is a bit warm. Why? Because there's more blood on the face on this area. And some of the light is hitting the face and it goes beneath the surface and is showing through here. Okay? And that shows some translucency of the skin. Okay. Now, as painters, you choose. Maybe you want to exaggerate that a bit. What if you want to make it a bit more bluish? Okay? Or a bit dark. Yeah. No, now, like every painter gotta choose that based on what you want to see or based on what you see on the photograph. A bit of coffee. Okay. Let's continue with. Okay. Got that cool color. Okay. A little bit more red. Now this color gets here. This color obviously is hitting that side of the face. Okay, what else is gonna hit that color? Okay, here. Okay. Remember, this face is like a cylinder, rounded. It hits there and here. Okay, that color, it could bounce. Obviously, it's a round, it could just hit here. Okay, it could even get into the shadows. But for that, we need another color. Now, here is that we're gonna darken up the color. If we darken up a cool color, it's gonna look like a really dark blue, dark purple. Yeah. What I want, we don't want that here because that's gonna change the skin color that much. I mean, we gotta keep in mind that we're painting a skin color. Where's the local color? We're not gonna change the skin color that much. Okay, there's a local color there. Okay, I'm gonna paint this with this darker brown, which is a warm color here. Now we need to paint a core shadow that's here, that separates the light on the shadow from the reflected light. Now, more things that we need to see. The eye is a sphere. Where's the light coming here? You know, light comes from here, hits here, but it doesn't get there. But how it gets there? Bouncing from below. That's why we see what? That this is darker, okay? And it's lighter on top of below the brow. Why? That indicates that the light is bouncing from below. And that creates a shadow here. Okay. There. Now, things that we need to paint. This and this here. This little subtle midtone, this is because of the eye socket. Okay, we cannot ignore that. A little bit of alizarin crimson. Below the nose, we have a darker value here. And a reflected light. The reflected light on the nose, that's the indication how the light is bouncing. Okay. Now, what light is bouncing? The sunlight. That's why this is a bit warmer. The skylight doesn't bounce that strength with that strength. It's a weaker light. Okay, a little bit of red here. I want some red on the cheek. Is there some comments? Hello, Swapnir. CB saying, for pasteros, what color of paper do you prefer for a portrait? Oh, for pasteros, I'm using mostly on the glasses on Patreon. I'm using sandpaper, 220 grit. is it's an orangey paper. I got one here. Oh no, I don't have it. The other day I had a piece of paper here. Oh, it's here. Yeah. It looks like kind of similar to the canvas. You see? A bit more yellowish. I got this on the hardware store. It's just some paper. Okay, let me see my paint. Okay. Now I need a bit more yellow. Here. Okay, a bit more yellow here. Here too. I'm gonna blend a little bit. Okay, here. Let's see comments. Oh, Gary saying tricky painting. Glad I'm not painting it. Yeah, I think what makes this painting a bit difficult is color theory. Understanding the light and sunlight and skylight. Okay. But it's a beautiful subject. Now, so many times we paint and we don't care about color theory. That happens so many times. Color theory was going to help us is to understand what we see. But if we have a keen eye, we can just mix the colors, not knowing anything about color theory, and get away with a nice painting that for somebody that knows about color theory would say, oh my God, that's pretty good. You know, you're pretty good on the balance between cool and warm colors and all of that. And complementary color harmony, simultaneous contrast, and all of that. So many times we do that because that happens in nature. It's not something that we do. We study color theory to understand what's happening, to be able, or let's say try to control it, to manipulate that a bit more to get better results. Okay? But sometimes it's not possible, sometimes it is. But knowing definitely about color theory, knowing about perspective when we're painting and some urban scape helps. Everything that like anatomy helps with the face, the bones, that's just the same. But let's say that somebody that doesn't know about color theory is going to use this video to paint. Just ignore what I said about color theory, about the sunlight and the sky. Paint what you see. You eventually, when you're going to notice that you're painting what I said that is there, because it's there. And then it's going to make click, but it's going to happen slowly. It's not something that you're going to see immediately. I remember when I was studying and I got these explanations in color theory. For me, it was just like listening a lot of things that I couldn't see. It was just my eyes that weren't trained at that time. Doesn't matter how many times the teacher was saying, hey, this is warm, cool. For me, it was just about copying what I see, that's it. I didn't want to care about all these things about color theory. But the thing is that eventually we know that that's going to be helpful. It's just like everything has had a fit on their own space, but at their own time. Yeah? It's going to happen eventually. But it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that we need to ignore that knowledge. That's why keep practicing, keep studying color theory, listening to all of that. Don't expect to knowing what exactly is happening when you study color theory, because that's not how it happens. I mean, speaking about my own experience, that nothing about that happened with because I did listen once about ambient light and all of those things about color theory, color harmony, all of that. That happened gradually. Okay, for example, this bluish color that I put in there, that's the color of the light from the sky. Okay. Why it looks bluish here and not on the light? Okay, because the light is being affected by the sunlight. And since the shadow is not getting affected by the sunlight, it get affected by the weaker light. And the weaker light is the skylight. Okay? Yep, just that. Okay, I gotta think about a volume on the face. Hello, Manuel. Okay. Let's see this. Okay, I need to add some even darker values. The eye is pretty dark. We know that the darker spot on the eye is the iris. So we could use the pupil, sorry, we could use pure black. Paint here with pure black. Sometimes we're not gonna see pure black on the eye on the shadow because all the values here are darker. You know what? I want to add a little bit of pink to the skin. I'm thinking that this pink maybe is going to knock down the color of the sky, the light from the sky. But I think I'm going to like it. I'm seeing just color harmony between some pink and the greenish color on the background, which I think I could make it even a bit greenish. Not so sure yet. Gonna add a little bit of yellow. Just sharing my thoughts here. Now, when I'm trying to get those so subtle midtones to get the volume, okay? For example, here, I see midtone there, and then the upper eyelid. I see shadow there. And I blend it because this has to look like kind of rounded. And there's going to be always this midtone that goes like this, okay? Why? Because when we know the skull usually has a depression on this area. And it goes like this. from the eye to the corner. Okay, it's gonna be pretty subtle. Mm. So the eye looks so blurry. A little bit dark. Okay, the hand a bit darker here. Okay, here I need to get the rounded form. A mid-tone here. Need to get this rounded form in there. Okay, here too. Okay, I have a mid-tone here. This mid-tone closer to the tear duct has to be a bit darker. Okay, yeah. Now the eye is not that rounded, it has to be a bit more rounded. Okay. Now the other eye. Okay, now a bit of red for the nose. Let's see. Sammy said hello. Thank you, Manuel. Sammy is saying, when is your next portrait in acrylics? Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that. I gotta do more portraits in acrylics. Okay. I don't know. I hope next week. Yeah. Hi, Cosimo. Gary saying, anyone else is getting this disturbing commercial breaks? Wow, sorry that. I got a way to set up that, and I put it just always usually by default. That says that's gonna keep commercials in a just kind of not so intrusive way. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I cannot do anything about it. Sorry about that. Enrique Rodriguez asking me, once the video in English is finished, you could have the audio made in Spanish. Yeah, I think nowadays it's possible to translate the video to any language. To be honest, I don't know how to do it. I never knew how to do that. But I know that I saw one of my own videos the other day, and I saw the options, like to translate it to more languages, not just Spanish. Hello, Ben. Yeah, which is a good thing, you know. AI is a good thing after all, for some things. Not for everything. Okay, I'm gonna soften edges here. I think I got, oh no, I need more light. I just more yellow there. Okay. Okay, let's add more light there. Let's keep this pretty soft. Okay. Yeah, one thing, I need to darken up the background. Even that's the sky. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna darken up the background. Just a bit more. A darker value, no saturation. Yeah, I'm gonna use black and white to keep the color desaturated and cooler. Okay. Now, what about there? I think that's better. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, blurry there, blurry here. A bit more paint on the lights. I need to add more paint. I'm gonna blend that in a second. I just wanna add more light. I wanna add this light to be bright. I wanna see how it looks. Okay, let me stand back and see the painting here on YouTube. Okay, it looks a little bit brighter, a bit. Hello, Monique. Hello, Phillips. Hello, Dita. Okay. Now, one thing I noticed that I need to darken up the shadow. That's the thing I need to do. Okay. Okay. Base color here. You know, for seconds I see it looks like I got it. That's good, but I'm gonna darken up a bit more. Mixing black, burnt sienna, and a little bit of alizarin crimson. Okay. Darker here. Darker. A bit of red. I think that's better. Thinking should I darken up the shadow on the neck or keep it lighter? Just keep the shadow darker here. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of light on the sky. Just here. I'm gonna make the neck a little bit curvy. You see the photograph, how straight look the muscle there? Okay, let me step back. Yeah, in terms of values, I think it looks better. Yeah. Okay, for the blue there, I need a darker value too. Darker blue. Let's put like a pre-saturated blue here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to change the value of the neck too. It's a bit desaturated. Not as saturated as the values of the skin color. Okay. I like it. Yeah, that's better. A bit more red. Okay, now the light, when the light is warm, it's gonna bounce, and it's gonna be warmer here. Okay, that means that's the reason why it looks warmer here. Okay. Now, if you wanna change the color, for example, here's the brush that I use for blending. I can go on top, and at the same time that I do a little bit of blending, I lay down a bit of color, and I just change the color that is here. Okay, clean the brush. Now this shadow here on the neck. I think I would love to. I know that's the hair arm, yeah. But I think maybe if I make it curvy, like this. And blurry here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's gonna be better. A little bit of this blue. I'll put a little bit of that blue here. Blue here. Okay, even on the face, a little bit of blue here. A little bit of orange and yellow, and just a little bit of the brush to do this. Pretty lightly. Okay? See how I changed the color again. Okay. Now you can do that for any color, with any color. Here, this one, for example, here. Got the light on the nose. Looks too cool, the light on the nose. Huh? A bit of a warmer color. Okay. Little bit of light here. Okay, let's continue. Sorry about the sound. Okay. The reflected light that's it's hitting here below the eyebrow. Gotta hit here too. Okay, a little bit there. And now the glabella area is a bit darker here. Just a bit. There is a little bit of light on the nasal bone. There. Okay, soft edge here. And a sharp edge here. Okay. Now for the mouth, the same here, a little bit darker on the corner of the mouth. I don't want to make it too dark. Just enough to show the mouth, but I want to get the feeling that the lips are kind of transparent. There are two much light. You see softer, transparent lips. Now the tricky thing is the great illusion that this is rounded. So there's gonna be a mid-tone here. Okay. You see that mid-tone there? And here next to the mouth, there, a mid-tone there. Okay, below the mouth, there, a little bit of a mid-tone. And what I need to do is make a correction here, go around this to show the light on this area. Same here. Okay. The reflected light below the nose, I'm gonna just saturate that a bit more orange. Okay. Now here we need here a mid-tone. The same here, mid-tone. Okay. Now the form shadow, what we used to call the core shadow here, it's gonna be here. It's gonna go all the way down here. Okay, on the neck is 2, is here. It's there. Okay. I'm molding the face here, like thinking that this is a sculpture. We need to just values to make the form rotate in space. Sharp edge here. Yeah. Okay, a bit more red for the lip. Okay, there. Here, the other lip. Darker. Now here I have a doubt about outlining the mouth. We see on the photograph, darker line between the lips. Oh, let me try a little bit. Maybe that's gonna be enough. I barely see it, a bit darker. Hello, Lily. Oh. Now I need to work on some of the lights. Where's gonna be the lightest light? The one on the right side of the face. Here, this one. Next one, I think it's gonna be just here. Okay, then here. Okay. I need to knock down this light a bit. Okay. I was getting a lot of cake and sweet yesterday, and my daughter's birthday, and my daughter was just like, "Oh, Dad, you gotta stop eating too much," you know. But it was not just about it's not just your birthday. I told her, that was a reminder that the first time that was I was a dad, and let me tell you, that was scary. I got a reason to celebrate more than you. Yeah. That was 23 years ago. I got a call. My wife telling me, "You're gonna be a dad." I said, "How? When that happened? How did that happen?" Hello, Bob. A little bit of a highlight on the eye because it looks like the eyes are just so opaque. A bit of some violet. I got a little bit of violet here. Okay. Red and white. Squint on my eyes, a bit darker here, subtle dark. Yeah. Okay. Now the cheek there. I still need to work on this area to mold the face, get rounded there. I'm not happy with that. Okay. And as you can see, I'm using a combination of warmer colors for the hand and cool colors. This violet here and this bluish color. Okay, now just a more saturated pink. Okay, just a bit here. I want to add a highlight here, but the latest light is on the face, not on the hand. Even that I want to add a bright highlight there. Yeah, I shouldn't do it because here's the focal point, you know, that cheek. The cheek, but the point here is that it's the volume. Okay, now the same violet here is gonna be useful for the nose. Light for the nose here. Okay. Hello, Corinne, welcome. Mm. Okay, I wanna use, I don't see like any really black spot, but I wanna just lay down a little bit of black because I wanna compare. Another thing that I was seeing is about the light here. I love that light there, okay? But there's more light here, which I don't know if I was thinking, yeah, I don't know if I should just add the many light, yellow light there, but I gotta do it in order to see if that works, because the other option I had is just knock down the light here, or do both. Okay, knock down the light, have like a mid-tone, and the thing is that I try to keep in mind always that there's gonna be some what's the word, hierarchy, yeah. Where's the latest light and how we move from the latest light to the next light and the next light. Okay. Yeah. Now I knock down this one. I add more light here. Okay. Looks really bright. No. Okay, that's good. Now darker spot. I don't see like a really dark area, just maybe the eye on the left. But what about if I add just that? I want to see it, okay? Maybe I'm gonna just wipe off this here. Okay, let me step back. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I need that. I don't see something like I see that on the photograph. I'm doing this in order to compare. It's just like I need a value scale, and since I don't have really dark values, I don't have a value scale to compare with. And I think the best option is have that darker spot, and I feel more confident now about painting, for example, the iris here and the eye, because I can compare that darker value. And even dark blue, again, I don't see this dark blue here, but I'm just painting that for the same reason, okay? Just to have a darker value to compare with. Okay, there. Now the eye, more of the eye. Let's see. Now I'm thinking, it's not what I see on the photograph, but one thing, when I squint on my eyes, I see darker here in the eye. Okay, that's what I see. The next darker spot that I see are on, I'm gonna paint it here, are on the shadow, that blue shadow that I have. More than the blue shadow is here and here. Okay, that's darker spots. Another really bright light is the light on the hair. I wanna knock down this or molding this a bit more. Feels that it needs a bit more molding. Okay. Now I got a feeling after adding this mid-tone that the face is kind of rounded on that area. Okay. I need the same feeling here for the hand that's rounded there. Okay. Now another thing that I was thinking, I got that darker value. Okay. What if I just make this darker and a bit more saturated green? Okay, that helps. That helps to the composition, color, something. Okay, maybe it's just blue. Since I got blue here, it doesn't look like a bad idea. Okay, the same blue here. Okay, I think it looks better. Now, about blending, I need to, I love there's some brush strokes like here, for example, but I wanna get a balance, some area that could be pretty soft, okay, kind of blurry, and some loose brush strokes. Okay, for example here, soft. Okay, what about just that and this loose brush strokes? Now I gotta just be sure that not overdoing this and not over blending. And I just got the feeling that I'd overdo it. I want to lay down a brush stroke here. Maybe just leave it there. Okay. Okay, I got some loose brush strokes on the face. Now I blend the background or I blend the face. You know, I love the face with some loose brush strokes. I think that adds some movement to the face. Okay. Now I need that kind of movement on the background too. Yeah, I think it works. But you know, I know myself. I wanna soften this, and let's see. Soft, soft, soft. Blurry, blurry. Okay. Yeah, here too. Okay, let's put more paint on the hands. Okay, some pink. Some yellow. Some really bright yellow here between the fingers. Yeah. Hello, Nipen. Nipen is from Nepal. Nepal. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm from Peru. Hey, they were saying your page is Patreon. Is that your group page? Yeah, Patreon is where we have paint alone lessons. We paint portraits. We paint. For example, tomorrow we're gonna paint landscape, or maybe still life. Fridays we paint different subjects, still life, landscapes. And Saturdays we paint portraits for 5 hours. And Sundays mornings we draw for 3 hours. And that's mostly what we do. Tuesdays we paint at night, afternoon, 5 p.m. my time. Right now my time is almost 4 here, 4 p.m. Not 5 p.m. On Tuesday we have a class that's a beginner level for portraits. Okay, and all of that is in Patreon. That's the link on the description box. You just join. There is an option that says join as a free member. If you join as a free member, you're gonna see that you're gonna have access to at least 6 videos, 6 free videos, recorded videos, recorded classes. Now my Patreon is built up about recording live sessions. And there are like about 400 to 600 I think recorded sessions, because I've been doing this for maybe four years, and every class is recorded, and I have 4 or 5 of them free when the people just join as a free member. And if somebody wants to paint along with me or see more, then you pay in the tiers. You know, it goes start with tier number, that $4 tier, all the way up to 120, where we paint together. Just imagine just a class like this, but we have a conversation, and I check out the paintings, and I do some paint overs with Photoshop to show what we need to be corrected, and we continue, you know. Tomorrow session, for example, that's gonna be the $9 tier. It's a 3 hour uh, live paint along session. Obviously, not everybody's gonna paint live, but there's gonna be the recording. And there's some people that just joined. Most of the people, I know that because there is an area that you wanna just leave a comment. Some people join the lower tier just to support my channel, my art, you know. And since the lower tier is just $4, and some people just leave a comment that they are there just to support me. Thank you so much. And I got at the same time a couple of ebooks. Put more red and yellow here. But that's Patreon. Yeah? That's mostly what I spend basically the whole week on Patreon. We paint Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. Yeah, we paint a lot. Some patrons has been there in my Patreon page, my Patreon group for years. Thank you so much for being there. I think I got that hand too big. Maybe. Okay, here's where I see maybe the lightest light, or one of the lightest light. Yeah, the hair here, between the fingers. And here. Okay, I think I should add a sharp edge here. A bit darker when I use black. Sometimes use black is just the easier way, but we gotta be careful. No, it's not like use black for everything. It's to darken up a color. Sometimes that's difficult to darken, get it darker when we add blue or raw umber. But one danger about using black is that it could just break down the color, any color too much to the point that's gonna look dull, dead. Yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Deborah. What do you think about this black value that I added there? You know what I did? It's just to compare. Sometimes it's just when the painting doesn't have like a lot of contrast, it's difficult to see all the values on a value scale. And since obviously I don't have an actual value scale to compare, it's just like I gotta just compare the values just with my eyes, how dark, how light is just one value. But it's gonna be easier if you have at least one spot that's pretty dark, the same way that you can have one spot that's pretty light. In that way, that's gonna be something that you can use to compare how dark you can just move, on the shadows to darken up the shadows more, or when you just have the painting just too dark and you need to move back to light up some values. Okay, and sometimes, like I said so many times, by mistake we got a new color harmony, a new, let's say new values. Let's say the shadow is completely light but works. In that case, I could say keep it. Okay. We're not gonna get a really perfect color match color when we paint the Prima. That's too much. If somebody wants to just match a color, I would say let the painting dry and continue working. But in one session, that's too difficult to get. We could get really close, yeah, but that's the goal, because if just trying to match color, we can spend like, I don't know, a lot of time. A lot of time just trying to match colors. Okay. I need to add a little bit of hair. I'm gonna use burnt sienna. It's a beautiful transparent brown. What about a sharp edge on the neck? Oh, I have some doubts here, but let's do it. Let's see here. Okay. It's a way to open the composition to direct the viewer, like, oops, moving like all around the painting. If I make everything blurry, the focal point is gonna be here, just here. His finger is completely greenish, bluish greenish. Kind of I like it, but that shouldn't be the color that is there, since it's getting the sunlight. I need more yellow and white. Kind of I like it to see the hand kind of greenish bluish. You see my painting on the screen here on OBS. You know, something that I don't like is the light on the neck here. This light there. If I just soften this, let's see. I think that's better. I got the feeling that it has the neck is too long, maybe a little bit up the shoulder. Okay, anyway, let's continue. Some yellow here. And more white. Okay, the good thing about the painting for me, okay, that's I see the face, I see the eyes. The eyes are pretty good. The mouth is soft. The hands is just something that I don't know if adding more color that would be better. You know, I have a lot of contrast on the face. That's what I want. Okay, I didn't think about or I didn't plan ahead the hands in a way that to add more contrast, more realism, or to make it part of the composition. I think the beauty is in the whole painting, but I think when I saw the photograph, I thought about the light on the face, and I didn't think about the hand, like the hands, like something that I could use to add more to the composition. That's my bad, my mistake, because hands are pretty important, and there's gonna be pretty important always. Just like sometimes I choose not to paint the hands because you know I'm doing a live stream, and so many times we don't have the time when we paint in one session to paint the hands. And that's what happens. Adding some red here. Okay. I need one more brush, a cleaner brush, a flat brush. Let's see. Yeah. Another thing that we all can see, for example, that there is some darker values between the fingers. Now again, if I add those darker values, that's gonna make the hand that that's gonna add more attention to that area. And I still wanna keep the attention on the eyes. Okay. Now here's where we need to balance things out about when we copy more and when we gotta leave some things out. Okay, just on purpose. Not everything is gonna work on the composition, especially when we paint in one session, when we paint Alla Prima. Oh, see, we're saying the portrait is very beautiful, thank you, but the picture in the sky seems lighter. Oh yeah, I painted the sky darker on purpose. I did that because I wanted more contrast between the light on the face and the sky. You know, here you see the photograph, the value that is here and the values here is kind of the same. Different color, but similar value. Now that I have this darker, I have darker spot, darker value, and this one are kind of similar, and I got this light here and light here, which I think for me is better for the composition. I got the focal point on the eyes. Yeah, I love that. Obviously, I prefer to do that than copy the sky exactly the way it is. You know, sometimes we don't need to copy every detail. And remember, when we paint Alla Prima, we leave a lot of things out from the composition, a lot. But we gotta choose what to leave out. We cannot paint, let's say, the mouth and leave out the eyes. No, the eyes are always pretty important. The eyes are gonna be always important. And if we need to do some changes, yeah, we gotta do it depending on the composition. Okay. Now, I'm squinting down my eyes and trying to get the form, you know, to make it feel that there is some bond beneath all these values. Let's not just copying light, midtones, and shadows. That's what, for the beginning, now we need to think about something is beneath. Thank you, Cat Savage. The same here for the nose, for example, here. I gotta be sure that this is lighter because that's the nasal bone. And it's coming forward. The thing is here that all the values are pretty close to each other. And what about the tip of the nose? There's gotta be some lighter value here too. Pretty subtle, but there's gotta be a lighter value. What about around the nose? Okay, do you see on the photograph this outlined around the nose? Looks like a darker line. Now, when it's good to paint it exactly, when it's not? I think that's not good to paint it exactly there, like pretty dark. Do we really need that outline there? That's gonna add to the painting for real, or we could make the painting stiff? I think it could make the painting kind of stiff, kind of cartoonish, if we put every single, you know, shadow and mid-tone everywhere. That's what I mean when I say that we need to learn to take decisions based on what we see on the painting. And that's something that, remember, we do that all the time. When we do that more, when we paint something Alla Prima, if you go out to paint a landscape, definitely you're just choosing what to paint and what not to paint, even when you don't think about that. Okay. For example, the idea of a class or learn to paint with a teacher is learn to take or make those decisions. Be aware of what you're living out. Be aware of what you want. And by painting more and practicing, you kind of know what you're doing. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy, there's going to be an easy way to do it every time. No. For example, right now, I'm more than seeing exactly every detail on the photograph, I'm thinking about the roundness on the cheek. Okay? Did I get that right? Okay, is that good? The shadow here is dark enough to create depth in that area to make the nose pop. Okay, that's something that we need to check out. Okay, is that okay? Or maybe I need to make it a bit darker. It's darker here in the corner of the closer to the tear duct. It's gotta be darker as is the eye. That's gonna add something, or we could make it, you know, cartoonish again. there's no need to paint every single value that we see. A sharp edge here and there, it could help for the composition, definitely. But remember, too many sharp edges, they're gonna make a painting cartoonish. Okay. Now we paint some details, we blend. Well, blending is optional. We could use blending as a way of continue molding the face or the volume. Sometimes I do it and I move the brush following the form. Here about the chin. There's a depression here. Gotta be a bit dark, a mid-tone. Okay, that's below the mouth. There's a coarse shadow that goes here, like this. Okay, and a reflected light is there. This goes up. Now we can see a muscle here. A muscle here. Sternocleidomastoid muscle there. A muscle here. Okay, the clavicle here. Clavicle here. Okay. I would love to paint every single thing that I see there. But I gotta just think that that's, should I? Okay. A reflected light on the left side of the face here to separate the mandible for the neck just a bit. And the fingers, add a bit more color to the fingers. Okay. Kind of almost done. That's the only thing that bothers me a bit, is this yellow here. Do you see it like no? Obviously, I was trying to paint the hair, but I got this greenish color that shouldn't be there. Okay, one thing that we could do, okay, here, when you got something like this, and you can just spread the color, okay, and that way, by comparison, the color is not gonna be alone there, and that's not gonna bother you again. And at the same time, you obviously knock down the color a bit. And that should be enough. Okay. Oh, gotta be careful. Sometimes we can just try, when we're trying to do this to echo the color, we can just end up with some yellow stains on the painting. That's not the idea. The idea is just to, by comparison, create the illusion that there is not an accent because we're adding more of the same color. When one color is just alone, and the other colors around, they don't share the same value. They don't share the same root, let's say, like yellow, in this case, green. The color glows a lot. Okay, we can knocking down the color, we can add more of that color around. Okay, now I think I have a good balance now. Even that I would love to work more on the hands, especially on this area, but I'm choosing just to make everything softer here. I got this blue on the hand. I have this blue here. So I put it in a way to balance colors. I got some darker values here, not too sharp, but enough to insinuate the fingers, okay, which I think is good enough. Okay, I got an accent here, and here, which is good for the values on the face. Okay, I still think that this area could be a bit lighter. Okay, let me see. I gotta be careful. Sometimes we continue doing something and we end up lighting up something too much and too much and too much. And all of a sudden we don't have shadows and lights anymore. Okay, do I see the volume on the cheeks? It's too much, it's too rounded. Should I knock it down? It's rounded than the other cheek. Okay, what about the core shadow here? What about the light there? And the edge? Should I knock down the edge? Yeah, so those are some of the things that we think about. Yeah? And if you join my lessons, you're gonna learn to think about those things too. Yes. That was a commercial. I mean, that's what happens now. The more we paint, the more we are able to do that. I need more orange. The color here is not that clean. When you wanna clean one color, you just move to a more pure color. If you move the mixture to a pure orange, it's gonna look cleaner. Because when the color is not too clean, maybe it's because the color has moved far away from being a pure color to an area where it's too grayish that we cannot tell exactly what color it is. We know it's grayish, but we kind of see it's grayish, bluish, grayish, greenish, grayish. What grayish is the color? Oh, thank you, Debra. Hi, ADC. Bye, ADC. Oh, bye, Dita. I didn't read the comments for a while. Oh, thank you, Phillips. Okay, Let's see how much time I have here. 2 hours. That's a good time. Yeah. Softer here. Softer here. I think I like it. I think it's good enough for today's session. Oh, I got a question here. Where do I know when to stop? Oh, that's so difficult to answer. But I would say that kind of I know myself when to stop when I got the volume that I want. I got the composition that I think is working. Okay, I have chosen the edges in a way that they are working too. Okay, I got enough soft edges to create an atmospheric view and don't have a cartoonish painting. The drawing is good enough. You know, I would love every single time to get the likeness. Sometimes it's not possible, and man, I kind of stop trying to pay attention to that. Try to respect my process of building thing on solid structure, and then on drawing once, then on values. When we separate lights and shadows. Okay, that's showing from step one that you have a plan. Because when we just don't do that, even when we start kind of with a crazy loose brush strokes, when we don't do that, we can just end up with a lot of time just making a judgment. On top of, we know that we're gonna make a lot of adjustments when we paint a portrait. We kind of have an idea that we're gonna do. We all do that when we paint a portrait. Okay. Now, when I got what I want in those terms, and I think I'm closer to call it a day. Yeah. There's gonna be some things that I'm gonna leave out on purpose because there's no way to paint every single thing. But like I said before, try to be careful. For example, the eyes. Okay, some edges, but not completely sharp edges on the eyes. That's one thing that I could do. Okay. The white of the eye, not completely white, but a light that shows that the eye is rounded. Here, some mid-tone here on this area around the mouth that shows that there is some muscles beneath the surface. And here too. That's not a complete flat area, not because it's in shadow, it's flat, or just one value. Okay. Softness on the mouth, because I like that. Now, sometimes I love to add more details, and sometimes I just love to see some softness. That could change depending on the subject. Okay, the same for the eyes. Not enough details. The hands, that's so difficult. The hands are just so difficult. They're going to be so difficult all the time. So many times when I just end up the painting, knowing that we could have done more with the hands, but we don't have more time, and we already tired, and we tired. Maybe we're not going to do any good by spending more time in front of the painting. We just need to rest from the painting to go back with fresh eyes and continue working, because I saw so many of my paintings, some of my videos, and one thing that I saw so many times on some paintings is just like that feeling that I should have stopped on a moment, and I didn't, and I move on, and kind of I see the beauty of the painting just when I was kind of sketchy. So that doesn't happen for every painting, but I remember especially a video that was just checking to create a short. Was checking this video a couple of days ago, and I saw the painting like on the first hour, and I thought that's pretty good just to stop there. Kind of a loose, sketchy, Alla Prima painting. An hour and a half, let's say, or maybe more, maybe 2 hours. But the thing is that I didn't stop, and I moved on to 3-4 hours. And I like the painting at the end, but I like it better when I was at that stage that was kind of loose, fresh. Definitely, it was for what I think right now, nowadays, I think it was better at that stage when it looked kind of fresh. And what I did, I overworked it. If that happens, that's art. That's something that we do with our own hands. And then all the time we're gonna deal with that, not knowing when to stop. And that's okay. Maybe that's okay. It's gonna happen anyway. We could kind of learn to know. Yeah, but that's the only way that's gonna happen is just by experience, by seeing your own paintings and seeing like, hey, at this stage it was better. Yeah. I got an advantage that I have my paintings recorded, which is pretty good. But if you don't have that, you wouldn't know exactly when we should have stopped it. For example, for the classes in Patreon, the classes are recorded. That means that the people that are painting with me, painting along with me, they are able to see the process of their paintings. And they can just see the same, check out, oh, look at that, it was better, like, or check out how it was evolving and how good end up, and how kind of, the ugly stage, it was just like a stage that was going there for so long that they thought that they didn't, they couldn't get away with a nice painting, and they did it at the end. Okay, I think that's it for today. Or maybe a little bit of a highlight. No highlight, a reflected light on the iris here. And kind of I did that here. I think it's too bright. Okay. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Take care, everybody. Do not check out the links. You want to join my Patreon? You can see there. We're gonna paint tomorrow. I have a couple of ebooks. One is just tips that you can use to improve your portraits in color harmony. Okay. All of them are just on the description. Okay. Take care, everybody. See you all next time. Bye. Now that I'm going, I see the hand. It looks like she's holding something blue on the hand. Oh my God, that's things that happens just at the last moment. What if I just lay down a color like this? Now this is not gonna happen to you. You know, you're just painting at home. You just have time to check out the paint. For me, it's something that at the last moment usually things just jump on my eyes because I know they're gonna turn on off the camera and there's no coming back for me. I will always create a part two, but usually don't do that. Okay, I think that's better. Okay. Uh, okay, Debra. Thank you, Manuel. Bye, Gary. Bye, Sylvia. Okay, bye. Thank you, Phillips. Good night. Yeah.